Hi everybody, it's me Lisa, your Sunday School Superintendent. I'm back again for another little message for Kids Church. This is for Sunday, May 31st. Now, May 31st is also known as Pentecost. And if we were together at church, I would be asking, does anybody know what Pentecost is? And I hope that a bunch of hands would go up. And I would call on someone and I would say, do you know? And we'd probably get some right answers and some close answers, and eventually we get to Pentecost. We break the word down, Penti meaning five. Some of you that are doing geometry, you have your five-cornered shape, five sides, so we know it's five. It's a pentagon, five Penti. And we get to Penti meaning 5 or 50 days after Easter. And then we talk about, well, what happened 50 days after Jesus rose from the dead on Easter Sunday? And we would talk more about how that's when Jesus ascended to heaven and went to be with God. And he had a message for us. More importantly, Pentecost Sunday, often we don't have Sunday school. We actually all get together in church. We have a single service at 10 o'clock, and our grade 9 students would get confirmed. They would confirm their faith. They would say, as a baby, I was baptized. I went to Sunday school and I learned all the Bible stories. I went to confirmation, and at confirmation, I learned all about why we believe what we believe and what it is we believe. And now I'm ready to say, I confirm that I really believe this is what I want to do with my life. This is the relationship I want to have with Jesus. And so for those grade 9 students, I'm sorry that this year is not the confirmation that you thought it would be in September, but I do know that Jesus is with you and he loves you. And we will find a time for that confirmation. But it is Pentecost Sunday, and our Bible reading that Pastor Terry will be reading in the church service comes from John chapter 20, beginning with verse 19. And on the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors being locked where the disciples were for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." When he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. Then the disciples were glad when they saw the Lord. And Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, even so I am sending you." And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. For if you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. And if you withhold forgiveness from any, it is withheld." There's lots of important things in that reading. We're not going to talk about all of them. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the beginning of that. Because it said on the evening of that day, that first day of the week, and we think of Sundays as the first day of the week, the doors being locked where the disciples were for fear of the Jews. The disciples were locked in a room all by themselves away from the people out of fear and needing to be safe. And they felt fearful. And I was thinking about that, how we haven't been able to get together at church for a long time. We haven't been able to do all the things and visit all the people that we would normally visit. And maybe we're feeling a little bit alone. And maybe we're feeling a little bit fearful as we try to hide and stay apart in order to be safe. And if we keep reading, Jesus came and stood with them and said, "Peace be with you." And he showed them to prove that it was him. The holes in his hands where the nails were, the hole in his side where the spear was put to make sure that he was dead before they took him off the cross. And it says, and when he had showed them this, the disciples were glad. So it took seeing something that they could see, seeing the holes in his hands, the spot in his side, and then suddenly they were glad. They weren't alone anymore because Jesus was with them. And then Jesus says, "I'm going. And as the Father sent me, I'm sending you." And I'm sure that they probably felt a little scared with that message too. How are you sending us? We're in a room by ourselves. We're kind of hiding out. We can't be together with the other people. And as I was thinking of this lesson, I remembered this little blanket that's in my house. And you can see it's pretty tattered up. It's been washed lots of times. It's wiped lots of tears, wiped lots of owies. This was one of my kids' favorite blankets. And when they were sad or frustrated, I would take this blanket and I would wrap them up in it, and they would snuggle into it, and the blanket would make them feel calm. It comforted them. Just like in this reading, seeing Jesus and seeing his hands and knowing that was Jesus, that made the disciples, brought them comfort, and they went from being fearful to glad. And they were with Jesus, and he said, receive the Holy Spirit. And last time in our kids' lesson, we also talked about the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit is with us always. And that's what God wanted. When he took Jesus up to heaven to be with him when he ascended, then he sent the Holy Spirit to be with us. So just like we sometimes like to have a blanket that brings us comfort, God knew we needed something, and he couldn't leave us something we could touch, like Jesus, but he could leave us with the Holy Spirit. And sometimes it's hard to remember that. And we have to come to places, I like to come to places like this. You can maybe hear the water in the background, maybe hear some people in the background. But this is nature. And I remember when I feel the wind, and you saw earlier the wind was blowing me a lot. And that I feel that breeze, and even though I can't see the wind, as much as I look, I can't see the wind, but I can feel it, and I know that it's there. And the Holy Spirit is like that. Even though we can't see the Holy Spirit, we can feel him and know that he's with us. And sometimes it takes coming to a place like this with trees and water and nature. This is a spot on the little creek that sometimes last Sunday I actually showed my kids how they could cross the river here safely, crawling over the rocks. But being with nature and feeling God around me and feeling God around us, that helps me remember the Holy Spirit is with us always. And we can all have something. Sometimes it might be the sound of wind chimes. You can't see the wind, but it makes beautiful sounds. Or it might be seeing a sunrise or a sunset or a beautiful rainbow. These are all things that help us remember that God sent his Holy Spirit to be with us. He sent the Holy Spirit to be with us now. He sent the Holy Spirit to be with the disciples 2,000 years ago. And he'll continue to send the Holy Spirit to be with us forever and ever. And that is what we have to remember, that even when we might feel alone, the Holy Spirit is always with us. So today, I would like to end with a prayer that we all know so well, where we would stand up in Sunday school and we would pray together. We'd say, God, guide my feet today and grant kindness to each word I say. Bless our hearts, our minds, our hands to do this week as God commands. And I'd say, go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
And you'd say, thanks be to God. And we would together go out, and then I would say, and be good to your teachers. But since you're not going to school, I'll say, be good to your moms and dads. And remember that the Holy Spirit is always with you.